It's not a theory, it's more like an opinion or something, because theories in science represent tested and proven thoughts, and the reason they're called theories is because they aren't always accurate later. That's why they're called a theory. Um, so the word's kind of accurate, but saying it's a scientific theory is inaccurate because it hasn't been shown to be the case or not. So I'm going to try to use the word opinion instead of theory from now on, because, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah. This cat may or may not have a secret stash or Schrodinger's stash in the house somewhere that we don't know about. Uncertainty principles are really hard to show whether they're one way or the other because they are uncertain. Thus, you would have to go beyond predictability or simple symbolic guesses to attain any sort of effect. Or you could just go and look for the stash that this cat has, because we happen to have noticed things vanishing in the house and her playing in those areas. But, yeah. But there is something that retains information and color and has uncertainties, dissonance, and several other properties similar to the atom. The relation between that one thing that I'm not going to talk about right now and the rest of reality is mass, because the entire part of our theory thing is based off of the motion, how they rearrange, which is all relative to the mass of it. And if you remember in one of my other videos, I showed that depending on the support of the object, the mass is different. And it's not always stable. So we're going to do an experiment. If it goes too fast, it's too... Six. Okay, I missed that time. The numbers matching with the dice is not always the case, because that makes more sense than anything else that's going on here. I think I 6 and 6. It's because it's date on there, but it was 6. And one more time. Okay, I touched it. And it does that too. I don't know how weight can be negative, but it does. 2. And 4 and 1. Alright, I think I've got enough. The video, and then I listed what the number on the scale was, and the number of the dice. Yeah, that's the only other number that was there. And then I listed how many times the number, like so 2, how many times 2 equaled the same number. That is how many times it was not the same as the other ones. And 4 was the best. It only got once. Yeah. I did that. And yeah. I'll explain what that means in a second. At least theoretically. Or whatever. I don't know. The idea was that because the weight of the dice is different when it's rotating, and depending on how it touches the scale, that when I threw the dice and it landed on a different number than its actual weight, that depending on the rotation of the dice as it hits the scale, it would result in a different number. And if that was the case, under certain but more common chances, the dice would land on the same thing. And that shows it, but it's still chance-based, which means that unless I know the exact rotation of the dice as it's falling, I can't really show whether it's true or not. But if it's not the case, then that's a really lucky dice roll. But yeah. To the light thing is that matter is neither created nor destroyed. So at least in an object-oriented way, when light goes into an atom, it swaps some sort of small amount of matter, and thus the weight of the object changes by a microscopic amount. Not even microscopic, smaller than that. And in doing so, it changes the weight of the object and thus changes the way it moves. Or at least that was why I started throwing dice at scales. But yeah. To the light thing is that matter is neither created nor destroyed. So at least in an object-oriented way, when light goes into an atom, it swaps some sort of small amount of matter, and thus the weight of the object changes by a microscopic amount. Not even microscopic, smaller than that. And in doing so, it changes the weight of the object and thus changes the way it moves. Or at least that was why I started throwing dice at scales. But yeah, I think I'll conclude this video right here because it's already pretty long.